One of the students the other morning, when we gathered here, asked a question, which was, what is the difference between relationship and sex? In talking it over together, we came to a certain point, which was, why do human beings throughout the world give predominance or importance or a priority to certain activity? Why sex has become such important thing, overriding all others? Why money? Why this sense of committed direction? Why human beings give all their attention, their life to an idea, to an ideal, to a God, and so on? Why? We asked this question and we went over it. Is it because society demands it? A particular culture produces this attitude. The society, the culture is what we have created. Each human beings have created it. And why do human beings, you and I or others, why we give importance to one particular action, business, artistic, political, economic, or so-called being committed totally to a religious life? Is it because we are seeking security in giving ourselves over to a particular action, committing ourselves to a particular ideal? In that there is certain security. There you are very clear. You have committed yourself to an ideal, to a utopia, and you can work for it completely, disregarding all other activities. That gives a certain sense of security, well-being, being committed to something. In talking it over together, we saw, I hope we all understood this, that when we do this, it's like cultivating the arm, one arm, out of proportion to the other arm. So there is disharmony. Right? A man or a woman committed to a particular career, scientist, Dr. Baum here, yes, sorry. If you are committed to be an artist all your life, or a musician, or this or that, it does breed a certain disharmony. And we said, what is then harmony? I hope you're all interested in this. It's what you asked, so what we are, I'm just, for those who are here, who weren't here the other day, we are exploring this thing together. Then we asked, what is harmony? Can human beings live in harmony? Harmony implies a good mind, logical, reasonable, objective, impersonal, not thinking about oneself and one's own attitudes and its own opinions, and cultivating those opinions, attitudes, and so giving importance to the intellect, which breeds disharmony. So to have a very good mind, clear, objective, impersonal, and if one may use the word heart, which is affection, kindliness, generosity, not romantic, sentimental, and to have a good body, so that the three are continuously working harmoniously, so there is no distortion in action. That's where we came to the other day when we were discussing this. Can this harmony be brought about? And who is the entity or the thought that is to bring this about? Right? We came up to that point. We said, can thought cultivate or struggle or exercise itself in bringing about this harmony? And we said also that thought itself is born out of disharmony. So we came to, and we'll discuss that. Right? May we? Right? Will thought bring about the necessity of living a life every day harmoniously, so that there is no distortion, so that one doesn't give importance to one particular thing, whether it's family, child, occupation, career, money, and so on. Can thought in its activity bring this about? And is not thought itself not harmonious? Does it not breed disharmony? So let's talk it over together from there, right? What do you think? How do you regard thought in relation to the question, can it bring about a life that is totally harmonious. If thought doesn't bring it about, then what will? This is the question that arose from your particular question. What is the relationship? What is the difference between relationship and sex, right? Please, what do you say?
So, are you saying that thought must always be disharmony?
Are you saying that thought must always be must be in disharmony? Let's talk it over together, find out. If thought is very limited, if you see that, and if you not agree, if you directly see it, that thought is limited under all circumstances, then that which is limited, narrow, shallow, cannot bring about harmony. That you must be very clear on this point, that whether the thought is in itself, whatever it does, whether it says, I am God, I am the universe, I am the whole of this and that, it is still limited. I mean, do we understand that question? Do we together see that point? Is not thought a small corner of a vast field? That small corner thinks it can cover the whole of the field. It can understand the universe, the cosmos, the whole existence of man from that little corner. Thought has created society, architecture, technology, all the rest of it. And is not thought in itself a broken up piece.
Broken up, it may be, but I don't know about limited. I'm not certain that thought is limited.
You're not sure?
No.
Of what? That
thought is limited.
Thought is limited. You're not sure that thought is limited. How am I going to show it to you? Would you say thought is thought affection? Is thought love? Is thought compassion? Huh? Would you say that thought can comprehend or become aware of something it does not know? It can speculate about something it does not know and imagine it knows. And is not thought limited because it is born out of time. That may be a little more difficult. Is not thought time itself?
But time is continuous.
Time is continuous as a movement, isn't it? As a movement. So thought is a movement. Movement born out of memory. That is the residue or the outcome, that memory is the outcome of experience and knowledge. So, knowledge is the past. There's no, right? So, thought is a movement out of the past. Obvious. So it must be limited. It can project the future and say that is what is going to be, but it's still the outcome of the past. Thought has created, according to Karl Marx, a certain political economic ideals, which has become tyrannical and all the rest of it. So, the intellect, which is the movement of thought, reason, logic, and so on, that has created an ideal. No? Now, you thought creates one ideal and you create another ideal. No? Democratic ideal, totalitarian ideal, national ideal, the ideal of God and the ideal of non-God. So, thought, because it is born out of the past, because it is of time, because it is a movement based on certain memories, is inevitably limited. No? Don't agree with me, but for yourself see it clearly. I may be wrong. So you have to understand the truth of it, not your opinion or my opinion. That the truth is that thought is under all circumstances is a small corner which tries to dominate the rest of the field. So can that thought bring about this harmony of which we are talking about? Right? Can it? Can that which is limited understand the unlimited? It can think or it can speculate, assert, and write volumes intellectually about the unlimited and think it will understand the unlimited, but is still in the movement of that little corner, is still the movement of that little corner. So we're asking, can that thought bring about harm? If it cannot, which apparently, if one gone into it sufficiently, fairly obvious that it cannot, right? Right? Then what will? You understand my question? If thought cannot bring about this essential harmony, then what will? So man has said, God will bring it about. An outside agency which is omnipotent and all the rest of it, which is cosmos, whatever name you give to it, that will, if you can give yourself over to it, will bring this harmony. If you abandon yourself and let that external agency, truth, God, universe, cosmos, what you like, that will bring this extraordinary thing called harm. That thing is still invented by thought. Right? Or you hand yourself over to some guru. He says, I know, I'll help you to achieve this thing. So he gives you lots of systems, meditations and all the rest of it. But it's still the movement of that little corner. Right? So, if one realizes this, or sees the truth, that thought, though technologically you can do most marvelous things, is limited. Thought has divided the world. Thought has created wars. Saying this is Christian, this is heathen, right? And wars. And that very movement of thought says, I will bring this harmony into my being. And if that is very clear, that thought cannot, under any pressure, under any reward or punishment, can never bring this about, then what will? Right? Is this clear? Question clear? What will?
The thought realizes its pettiness, so it thinks that by putting many or greater thoughts together, it will probably build a bigger or greater picture.
Yes. Can the pettiness, as he says, which is thought, can that pettiness, shallowness, superficial thing, can that open the door to the universe? You know all the rest of it. It cannot. Then what will? What, sir? Come on, discuss with me.
But when we're asking what will, aren't we again using thought to try to find out?
Yes, but we can ask that question, though it is the outcome of thought, and find out if there is a different kind of movement in quotes, which is not thought.
What do you mean by this different kind of movement?
We're going to find out. What I mean maybe, so let's find out. You and I will find out together. First, one must see very clearly, definitely, irrevocably, that thought is limited. Thought cannot bring this about. That is absolute fact. If that is so, then what takes place? Go on, sir, examine it.
Isn't it so that thought must see itself, see by itself that it's not right to prevail, to be predominant?
So that you've agreed. You have, both of us after this examination for nearly an hour, half an hour, and the other day we spent an hour, 20 minutes going into this question. Unless we are really obstinate and not observing, we came to the point that thought is limited.
So did we come to this? It seems that in listening to this, I feel that with the use of logic, we are seeing that thought is limited without actually having a perception of it.
Yes, it's not only, we have not only used reason, logic, sanity, you see it is a fact. Thought has divided you as an Indian and me as a Christian, right? Thought has invented your God and my God. My Christianity and your Hinduism. You are a Hindu, I am a Muslim. Right? It is the result of propaganda, of tradition, of thought saying, finding, thought wanting security in the family, in the community, in a group, and so on, says, I am an Indian, I am a Muslim, I am this. Right? Therefore, thought has divided you and me into certain categories of nationalities, beliefs, all the rest of it.
But sir, it doesn't seem to be enough to simply see the external fact of that.
Beg pardon?
That's the external fact of the
Yes,
limits.
those are external facts.
Yeah.
External facts which thought has produced.
Yes.
So thought says then what? There is the inner world. There is the outer and the inner.
Yes, but I think that Shankar raised the question because we can see very readily that thought produces this
Division.
division, but it may still be going on in our brains.
Of course, it will go on in your brain if you don't drop it. If the thought says, how absurd this is, and says, all right, I won't be a Hindu or a Muslim, Jew or a Christian, Arab, and so on.
But it can go on in more subtle ways.
No, that's a different matter. First we said, of course it can go on differently. It can go on inwardly, more subtly, by having ideals. Being attached to a particular form of experience. And not moving away from that experience. That experience gives one a great sense of security. The thought is working all the time, isn't it? It may not express itself outwardly, but it's going on. Jealousy, anxiety, fear, and all the rest of it is going on. Now, let us, for the moment, keep to the point which is, can thought, even outwardly, bring about this harmony? If it cannot, what will? Who will answer this question? Probably nobody has put this question. Nobody has written books about it. Even if they have, it is still the operation of thought, the function, thought, writing, so on. So, what is your answer to that? Wouldn't you answer that question or find not an answer? All right, let me put it differently. How do you approach this question?
So this question perhaps can only be approached by my mind. There are thoughts going through my mind constantly.
Yes, but
and perhaps the question can be approached only by quietening that.
No. So I'm asking you, here is a question. Thought cannot produce that, right? How do you approach the question? How do you say, now what next? How do you come to it? You understand my question? Do you? Look, we have spent several hours of this. How do you, when you come to the final point, how do you receive it? How do you approach it? Because your approach may may dictate the answer. Your approach may reveal the answer. Not somebody will answer you, but after inquiry, after exploration, you are approaching it, aren't you, with a quite a different quality of mind. Are you? All right, may I explain a little more? I said, well, I see clearly that committed to a particular thing, particular career, committed to a family, to a child, to this or that, does bring about disharmony, right? I see that very clearly. And I say, am I committed to a particular thing, right? To becoming an artist, to becoming an engineer, to this or that. And I see, if I am committed that way, I must live in disharmony. Therefore, I must live in conflict, anxiety, fear, sorrow, all that follows inevitably. Though I pretend it will not, but it will produce the unfortunate reactions. I see that very clearly. And I also see very clearly there must be no attachment of any kind to an experience, to a person, and so on. I see that very clearly. And am I attached? Do I hold on to a particular experience, thinking it is most marvelously spiritual? And so on. So, there must be freedom from all those. Otherwise, I am caught in a particular direction. Therefore, that will breed disharmony. So, there must be freedom from it. Then, I realize thought is, under all circumstances, limited. I am very clear on that point. Nobody, no logic, no guru, no saint, no God, nothing will alter that. Right? Now, so what is harmony? I said the complete, total relationship with the mind, and so on. That is harmony. And thought cannot bring about it. Now, how do I come to that point? What has been my approach to that point? You understand what I'm saying? Do I want to find an answer? Do I want to find a way out of my disharmony? Something that will bring about disharmony? So I must be very clear how I am approaching this question. Have you got what I'm talking about? Huh? Now, how do you approach it? Do you want to live a harmonious life? If you do, it is still the operation of thought. Because that way, thought says, by Joe, that's a rewarding thing. It will be marvelous, it will be beautiful, it will be this and that. So how do you approach it? You can only approach it when thought has understood its limitation and doesn't move out of that limitation. Thought cannot produce this harmony. And thought has built the me, the ego, the personality, this and that, and that says, that center says, I must have that harmony. It is the most marvelous way of living. Therefore I must get it. So am I committed to anything? Committed to a particular action. The family, the child, the mother, the father, the career and so on. If I am, then I live and I cultivate this harmony, which is going to produce ugly things in my life. If I give emphasis to sex, as most young people do, and most people in the world do, even the older generation, then they live obviously in great misery. So what is one to do? You understand my question now? So, can thought do anything about it? Can I, which is the result of thought, do anything about that? Can I practice harmony? That you say, yes, I'll have a good mind. I will love people. I'll have a good body. That can be probably possible. Eat properly. No smoke, no alcohol, no drugs, and all the rest of it. But the other factors, thought cannot bring it about. So, having that very clear, then what takes place? The movement of thought will not answer this question. Therefore, thought ceases to project itself into the approach. I wonder if I'm making myself clear. Am I? Then, what is the approach? If thought is not creating the wave, then what is taking place, which is the approach. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, am I? Huh? Am I? Yes? Let's put the question differently. Can thought stop? Not thought saying to itself, I must stop. You understand the point? Then that's the exercise of thought, suppressing thought. But thought still remains. All right? Is that clear? There. So, can thought itself realize and stop? You know, we're entering into something very complex. This is real meditation, but I won't go into all that, unless you want to. This is the essence of meditation. For thought to realize for itself that is limited, and therefore it has no movement other than what is involved in that little corner. Therefore, can thought stop itself? Therefore, can time come to an end? Not science fiction time, but in our life, in daily life, can times come to an end? That is, not think about what you will be or what you must be in the future, or what you have been in the past, but all that movement come to an end, stop. Which is stop. I wonder if you get all this. And all this, you say, what the Dickens has all this to do with our daily life. Right?
You've said that thought is always partial, and I think we've seen that. Now, this particular realization on the part of thought that it cannot do anything, that it stops, is this perhaps also partial because it is the action of thought, and therefore we get into trouble with this?
Well, no. I don't want to enter too... It may become a little too abstract or too subtle or whatever it is. I mean, look, do you know what is insight? Now, wait a minute. You have said thought is limited, right? How did you come to that? By reason? By logic? By explanation? By example? Or, just listen, find out. Or, you had an insight into it. You saw the truth of it instantly. That insight is unrelated to memory. Therefore, it's not the product of thought.
What is its relation to logic?
Huh?
What is it, the relationship of insight to logic? Because
Nothing.
seems to me
It has
it's
no
logic,
relationship to logic,
and yet,
to reason, to memory.
but we've come to this realization about thought, perhaps very largely through logic.
What? I can't hear.
We've used logic to come to this realization.
No, we use logic. We have used logic to point out, to explain. But that logic, reason, cannot bring about insight. That's why I said, I asked you if you see the truth of it. Right? To see something. Wait a minute, let's take an example. To have an insight into the whole structure of religion as it is now exists, as it has existed, to have a quick insight into it, from that insight you can use logic, reason, and point out clearly. But the other way it won't work. I wonder if I'm making myself clear. Now wait a minute. If you belong to an institution, what is implied belonging to an institution? What is an institution? Right? Based on authority, rules, routine, follow, all that. To be free, not to belong to an institution, you can reason against it or for it. But to see the inward structure and nature of institutions, to have an insight into that, you're free of institutions. Though you may function, but the belonging to something, whether it's the institution of Catholicism or Protestantism or communism, it's finished. To have an insight into it is to observe without, I don't want to go into all this, without the observer. It becomes too complex always for you.
So how does that differ from the observation of something very ordinary? That red car out there will only go so fast. I can realize its limitation just through the ordinary accumulation of knowledge and process of thought. But how, when you're talking about insight, is this realization of the limitations of abstract things?
Madam, excuse me, I didn't want to go into this because it's too difficult for me.
But we're already in
I
it.
brought it in, unfortunately I shouldn't have. Does this give you any, the word insight, does it help you to see this? Huh? Though we have used reason, logic, for example, pointed out this and that, do you suddenly see in spite of the reason, logic and so on, see the truth of it? The quick perception of it is to have an insight into it. And if you have an insight into it, you can never go wrong. It is what it is. Say, for instance, if you have an insight into anger, I'm taking a silly example. See, to have an insight into it, from that insight you can be extraordinarily logical. But you can be logical, but you may not have insight into it.
Sir, even if there is no direct connection between thought and insight, when one gives attention to a problem because that problem is important to that person, you said that when one gives too much attention to family or job or whatever, that's disharmony.
No, not too much attention. I didn't say that.
You're right, you didn't say that. When one is
if
out
you
of
are,
harmony,
if
that becomes
say
very
for
important
instance,
to that person.
no, we made it. Perhaps you weren't here the other day. When one makes the family as the most important thing, gives priority to it, or to the child, to the husband, to the wife, to a job, that does bring disharmony. That's all.
But suppose that there is importance in one's life to getting to the bottom of thought.
No, am I, or you, not you personally, I'm not asking you personally, are you giving importance, priority, one thing over all the others? Maybe sex, it may be husband, it may be wife, it may be child, it may be career, and so on. And if one does, why does one do it? This is what world has done. Every human being more or less does it. Because he says, I can't give priority to everything.
So we went into it the other day and we saw that it was the thoughts or the mind's way of playing a trick on itself, making itself the most important thing by giving importance to something else.
Yes. We went into it. So where are we at the end of it? Have you an insight, I'm using the word insight rather carefully and hesitantly, into the nature of harmony? Have you? That if I am attached to my husband, wife, girl, child, that I will have no insight into the nature of harmony. Obviously. Will I? If I am attached to my career as a politician, God forbid, can I have how? You follow? It's impossible. So, will I abandon my career as a politician? If I can't, then I won't talk about harmony. It's meaningless. I may talk about it intellectually, play with it, game, and that's silly. So, can I drop my becoming a politician? That will give me position, that will give me power, that will give me money, and so on, so on, so on. So, but if I saw the nature of harmony, saw clearly have an insight into the beauty of it, this thing has no meaning, you follow? It's gone. I'm no longer a politician.
I'm still approaching the harmony and insight both through thought, as I have no other instrument to try to understand.
What?
The issue of harmony and insight, both these terms I am trying to understand through thought.
No, not through thought. Sorry. What we are...
Sir, is there a difference between the nature of harmony and the harmony of nature?
Between the nature of harmony
and the harmony of nature?
No. It's the same thing, isn't it? So, does one realize the contradiction between what you think, what you feel, and your... do you realize, actually, not theoretically, the interaction or the lack of interaction between the three, mind, heart. I've used the word heart to convey a great deal which we've gone into. Mind, which I've gone into. So, does one see a harmonious interrelationship between the three? Or there is no relationship between the three. One is operating much more than the other. Intellect may be highly developed. Or romantically feeling sentimental and emotional and becoming rather gooey. Or giving emphasis to the soma, the body, which says, I must have tasty food, drink, smoke, sex, you follow? Sensation. Do we realize this? Then if we realize that there is a break between the three, then thought says, I must relate it, I must bring about interrelationship, interaction between the, which will be even, which will be flow smoothly. Therefore it says, I must control my body, I mustn't eat more than I should, I must restrict my emotions. You follow? It's still the movement of thought. I wonder if you get this, right? Now, wait a minute. How do you see this? Is it an idea? A description which you are accepting? The words with their meaning say, yes, that's perfectly right, it is true. And from there you move to an idea. Or do you see it actually in your life?
So do you mean that tomorrow when I come upon this again, I don't think about the words that we said today about it and face it as it is in my life?
Yeah, what is,
than,
no, Shankar, look at it, please. Give a minute's thought. May I, as a personal, I'm not being personal with you. Do you realize that there is a contradiction between the three? Do you? If you realize, and what do you mean by that word realize? Is it actual fact, or is it an idea that there is a division? You understand?
No, sir, it's happening to me now.
Huh?
It's happening to me now. I'm sitting here and I'm trying to listen to you, and at the same time, something tells me it's lunchtime and I'm hungry and I want to go and eat.
Yes, give another 5 minutes more before we get really hungry. But I'm asking you, Shankar, a simple question, which is, how do you listen to this statement, to my question, which is, do you find in yourself, a break between the intellect, heart, soul? Is there a gap between them? And so, contradiction? Now, wait. How do you see that? How are you aware of that fact that there is a division, that there is a break? Is that an idea? Or you say, yes, there is a break. You understand what I'm saying? Because we live so much in ideas. And then try to put that idea into action. So we have moved away from the fact. Right? Is it time to stop? Is your hunger dominating? Predominant? Right? You better stop, don't you? Yes? Yes? Right, we better stop.